Touch her again, and you'll lose more than your hand. The words sliced through the marble and velvet hush of the Apex lounge like a blade through silk. Brenda's breath caught not from the stranger's fingers still wrapped around her wrist, not from the champagne-soaked laughter echoing off gold-trimmed walls, but from the voice that had just shattered 6 months of carefully constructed lies. No, she didn't need to turn around. She knew that voice the way drowning people know water intimate, inescapable, the thing filling her lungs when she couldn't breathe. Han Jun-sok stood 3 feet behind her, and the temperature in the room plummeted. The man, some hedge fund creature in a $12,000 suit, blinked twice, his alcohol-glazed smile faltering. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Jun-suk's tone carried no heat, no anger, just the cold certainty of someone who'd already decided how this would end. "Let her go." The lounge went silent. Crystal clinked against marble as someone set down their glass too hard. Brenda's heart slammed against her ribs. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not with Manhattan's elite watching, their phones already inching toward their pockets. "Jun-suk." Her voice came out strangled. "Wife?" The stranger's hand dropped from her wrist like she'd burned him. His gaze swung between them, confusion curdling into something uglier. "You never said." "She doesn't owe you her life story." Jun-suk moved closer, and Brenda felt the shift in air pressure. "And you don't touch what belongs to me." Belongs. The word detonated somewhere behind Brenda's sternum. "I don't belong to anyone," she said, turning to face him fully for the first time in 3 weeks. The mistake was immediate, because Jun-suk looked wrecked. His charcoal suit couldn't hide the tension in his shoulders, the shadows carved beneath his cheekbones. His black hair fell slightly over his forehead, like he'd been running his hands through it, and his eyes, they burned with something that made her want to run and stay in equal measure. "We need to talk," he said quietly. "Now. I'm working. You're done. You don't get to decide that. Brenda." Her name in his mouth was a command and a plea. "Please." Around them, whispers ignited like brush fires. Han Jun-suk's secret wife. The billionaire's hidden marriage. Brenda's manager materialized at her elbow. "Mrs. Han? Perhaps you'd like to take your break now?" Mrs. Han. The name felt like a noose. "I need 5 minutes," Jun-suk said, not looking at Trevor. "Sir, our staff breaks are 5 minutes." The words carried the weight of someone who'd built empires on will alone. "Or I buy this lounge, fire you, and take an hour." Trevor vanished. Brenda stood frozen, staring at the man she'd married in a fog of grief and poor decisions. The man she'd been hiding from for 23 days. Jun-suk extended his hand. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. You just outed our marriage to half of Manhattan. I know. You promised me privacy. He touched you. Something dangerous flickered across his face. He called you baby like you were his for the taking, and I couldn't let it stand. So you destroyed everything we agreed on? We didn't agree on anything, Brenda. You ran. You stopped answering my calls, blocked my emails, moved out without leaving a forwarding address. His voice dropped lower. You vanished like I was the worst mistake of your life. You were, she wanted to say. But the words stuck because they weren't entirely true, and that was the problem. 5 minutes, Jun-suk repeated. Then if you want me gone, I'll go. Brenda looked at his extended hand, at the watching crowd, at the exit and freedom. Then back at Jun-suk and saw something that made her chest ache. He looked as broken as she felt. 5 minutes, she heard herself say. But not here. His shoulders dropped relief, raw and unguarded. He led her through the crowd, his hand at the small of her back. The touch ignited every nerve ending she'd been trying to smother. They climbed marble stairs in silence. A door opened to darkness and leather, city lights glittering through windows like earthbound stars. The door closed. Jun-suk turned to face her. I don't need 5 minutes to tell you what you already know. Which is, I'm not letting you go, Brenda. Not without a fight. He stepped closer, fingers grazing her cheek. So before you run again, understand this. You can hide from everyone else, but not from me. Never from me. The room tilted. And somewhere in the wreckage, Brenda felt the truth catch up. She didn't want to hide anymore. The car door slammed with the finality of a gunshot. Brenda pressed herself against the leather seat, creating distance between her body and Jun-suk's as the Mercedes pulled away from the Apex lounge. The partition between them and the driver rose with a mechanical whisper, privacy granted. Trap sprung. You did that on purpose. Her voice cut through the silence like shrapnel. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. He stared straight ahead, city lights strobing across his face in alternating patterns of shadow and illumination. Yes, the admission landed between them like a detonation. You planned this. Brenda's hands curled into fists against her thighs. You knew I was working there. You walked in with every intention of claiming what's mine? Absolutely. He turned to face her then, and the raw possessiveness in his eyes stole the oxygen from her lungs. Did you think I'd let you hide forever? Let strange men put their hands on you while you pretended I didn't exist? We had an agreement. We had a lie. His hand shot out, gripping her chin with terrifying gentleness, forcing her to meet his gaze. You wanted space. I gave you 3 weeks. You wanted privacy. I let you run to the other side of Manhattan and work in a place where men with too much money and too little respect could. His thumb brushed her lower lip, and she hated the way her breath hitched. No more. Brenda jerked away from his touch. You don't own me, Junseok. Don't I? The question held no arrogance, only a dark certainty that made her pulse spike. Tell me you didn't feel it when I walked into that room. Tell me your body didn't recognize mine before you even turned around. She couldn't. God help her, she couldn't. That's not the point. That's exactly the point. He leaned closer, invading her space with the precision of a predator. You're my wife, Brenda. Not in some abstract paperwork sense. Mine. And every man in that lounge needed to know it. So you destroyed my reputation, my job, my chance at a normal life. There is no normal life. The words exploded from him with volcanic force. There never was. Did you think marrying Han Junseok came with a white picket fence and suburban anonymity? I thought it came with respect for my choices. And I thought it came with you not disappearing in the middle of the night like I was something to be ashamed of. The car screeched to a halt. Traffic, probably. Neither of them looked away. You terrify me, Brenda said. And the confession tasted like blood. The way you look at me. The way you claim me. Like I'm something you collected. Something you own. I don't collect things, Brenda. I conquer them. His hand found her throat, not squeezing. Just there. His palm against her racing pulse. But you? You conquered me first. 6 months ago, in a hospital chapel, wearing a black dress and holding together by force of will alone, you looked at me like I was your last option and your only salvation. And his voice cracked just slightly. I've been yours ever since. Her breath came in shallow gasps. Then why does this feel like a cage? Because you keep trying to fly away from the only person who knows how broken you really are. His forehead pressed against hers. I don't want to own you, Brenda. I want to keep you. There's a difference. Is there? One implies property, the other implies worship. His lips ghosted across her temple. And I have spent 6 months worshipping at the altar of a woman who won't let me close enough to prove it. The car started moving again. Brenda's resolve crumbled like sand. You can't just expose our marriage because you're jealous. It wasn't jealousy. His hand tightened fractionally on her throat. Pure, incandescent rage at watching another man touch what belongs in my bed, in my arms, in my life. Junseok, the secret is over, Brenda. No more hiding. No more pretending we're strangers when the world isn't watching. His thumb traced her jugular. You're Han Junseok's wife now. Publicly. Completely. And if you think I'll apologize for claiming you in front of Manhattan's elite, you don't know me at all. I don't. The admission tore from her throat. I married you in grief and desperation, and then you became this force I couldn't escape. Then stop running. His mouth hovered millimeters from hers. Stand still and let me catch you. Let me show you what this marriage could be if you stopped fighting it. And if I can't. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Then I'll chase you to the ends of the earth, and when I catch you and I will catch you, I'll make sure you never want to run again. It should have terrified her. It didn't. The car pulled up to his building, their building. Legally, though she'd never lived there. The doorman materialized. Junseok exited first, then extended his hand with the same inevitability he'd shown in the lounge. Brenda stared at that hand, at the choice it represented, safety or honesty, privacy or partnership, half a life or something whole and terrifying. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers like a vow. Good girl, he murmured, and the praise sent heat spiraling through her veins. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The penthouse smelled like him sandalwood and expensive whiskey, leather and something darker she couldn't name. Brenda had been here once before, on their wedding night, when they'd signed papers in silence and slept in separate rooms, like strangers bound by contract rather than choice. Now, standing in the center of his domain, She felt the weight of everything unspoken pressing down like atmosphere before a storm. Junseok shed his jacket with controlled precision, draping it over a chair. His movements were economical, practiced the careful choreography of a man who'd learned to weaponize stillness. "Drink?" he offered. "Answers." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Whiskey, then." He poured 2 glasses neat, no ice, and handed her one. Their fingers brushed. Electricity sparked between them, unwelcome and undeniable. "You said I was in danger," Brenda stated. "Explain." Junseok gestured to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Manhattan glittered below them like a jewel box of secrets and violence. "Do you know what I am, Brenda? What my family built? I know enough." She'd done her research after the wedding, discovered things that should have sent her running. Import-export businesses that moved more than cargo. Real estate acquisitions that displaced entire neighborhoods. Connections to politicians, judges, police captains, power woven through the city's infrastructure like poison through veins. You know, the sanitized version. He took a drink, the amber liquid catching light. The one designed for public consumption. But the truth? His eyes found hers. The Han family controls 30% of illicit trade flowing through the eastern seaboard. We have enemies, rivals, people who would burn this city to ash if it meant destroying us. Brenda's stomach clenched. "And I'm leverage. You're a target." He said it flatly, without apology. "The moment our marriage became public knowledge, you moved from obscurity to crosshairs. But here's what you don't understand. You were already in those crosshairs." The glass nearly slipped from her fingers. "What?" Junseok moved to a desk, retrieved a folder. He placed it in her hands like evidence at a trial. 3 weeks ago, when you left, I put protection on you. Discreet surveillance, men watching your apartment, your routes, your workplace. Brenda opened the folder. Photographs spilled out her leaving her building, walking to the subway, entering the Apex lounge. But in the backgrounds, circled in red ink, were other figures. Men in cars, women at cafe tables. Faces that appeared too frequently to be coincidence. "Nakamura Kai," Junseok said quietly. "Yakuza syndicate. They've been watching you for 2 weeks." The room tilted. "Why?" "Because rival organizations do their homework. They knew about our marriage before it went public. Someone leaked it, one of my father's old enemies, probably, trying to destabilize us." He took the folder back, his expression carved from stone. "Your privacy wasn't protecting you, Brenda. It was making you vulnerable. A hidden wife is easy prey. A public one?" He stepped closer. "A public one is untouchable. You're saying you exposed our marriage to protect me? I'm saying I chose the lesser of 2 evils." His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. "A scandal we can weather. Your death? That would destroy me." The confession hung between them, raw and bleeding. "How long have you known?" Her voice barely qualified as sound. "Since the day after you left." No hesitation. "I was going to tell you. Every time I called, every email I sent, I wanted to bring you home, put you behind walls and guards, and every defense I could build. But you wouldn't answer." Guilt twisted in her chest. "So instead you walked into my workplace and forced your hand." "Yes." He didn't look away. "I won't apologize for choosing your life over your pride." Brenda pulled from his grip, pacing to the windows. Below, the city sprawled in all its terrible beauty, millions of lives intersecting, oblivious to the predators moving among them. "This is insane," she whispered. "This is my world." Junseok's reflection appeared beside hers in the glass. "The world you married into when you said yes in that chapel. I didn't know. You knew enough." His voice held no accusation, only truth. "You knew I was dangerous. You knew my family's reputation. You married me anyway because you needed something only I could provide. Safety, stability, an anchor when her entire life had shattered around her father's hospital bed. And now?" She turned to face him. "What do I do now? Now you let me protect you." He closed the distance between them, his presence overwhelming. "No more separate lives. No more pretending we're anything other than what we are, which is bound." The word fell like a sentence. By law, by danger, by something neither of us wants to name but both of us feel. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "I won't be your prisoner. I'm not asking you to be." His hand settled on her hips, burning through fabric. "I'm asking you to be my partner, to trust that when I make decisions that seem controlling, It's because I've seen what happens when I don't protect what's mine. What happened? His expression shuddered. My sister. 8 years ago. She fell in love with a civilian, kept it secret, thought she could have a normal life outside the family business. His grip tightened. They found her in a warehouse. It took me 3 days to identify the body. The horror of it crashed over Brenda like a wave. Jun-suk, so forgive me, he continued, voice rough. If I refuse to let history repeat itself, if I drag you into the light and make you so public, so visible, that harming you becomes a declaration of war no sane person would risk. Understanding crystallized, sharp and cutting. This wasn't about control. It was about trauma. Brenda's hands came up to his chest, feeling his heart race beneath expensive cotton. You should have told me. Would you have stayed? Honest answer? She didn't know. We need rules, she said instead. Boundaries. I won't be some doll you position and protect. I need autonomy, choice, within reason. No, within partnership. She pushed, and he let her, stepping back. You don't get to make unilateral decisions about my life. We discuss, we decide together. Or this ends now. Challenge sparked in his eyes. You think you can walk away? I think I'm the only person in your life brave enough to try. The truth of it landed. For a long moment they stood there, two people bound by paperwork and circumstance, learning the weight of something neither had anticipated. Fine, Jun-suk said finally. Partners. Equal partners. His smile held darkness and promise. Don't push your luck, Mrs. Han. But he extended his hand. She took it, and sealed their fate. 3 days. 3 days of living in Jun-suk's penthouse, surrounded by armed security, and the suffocating reality of her new life. Brenda stood in what he designated her space, a studio flooded with northern light, easels and canvases already arranged, as if he'd been preparing for her return all along. The thoughtfulness of it made her chest ache. The presumption made her furious. You can't just build me a studio and expect it to fix everything, she said without turning around. Jun-suk's reflection appeared in the window behind her. He'd been watching from the doorway, silent as a predator. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm trying to give you room to breathe, in a cage you designed, in a home I want us to share. He moved closer, and she felt the heat of him against her back. There's a difference. Is there? She finally turned, and the exhaustion in his face surprised her. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His hair was disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're arranging my life the same way you arrange business deals. That's not fair. Fair? The word tasted bitter. You want to talk about fair? I lost my job because you couldn't control your jealousy. I lost my apartment because you decided it wasn't secure. I lost every shred of independence because you unilaterally decided what was best for me. I saved your life. You took my choices. The shout burst from her, raw and desperate. Don't you understand? After my father died, after everything fell apart, the only thing I had left was agency. The ability to decide my own path. And you just, her voice cracked. You just swept in and took it. Jun-suk's hands clenched at his sides. Would you rather be dead and free than alive and safe? I'd rather be trusted to help decide what safety looks like. How? By running to the other side of the city without telling me? By blocking my calls while syndicate operatives photographed your daily routine? He stepped forward, anger finally breaking through his control. You talk about choices, Brenda, but you made yours 3 weeks ago when you disappeared. You chose to handle everything alone. You chose to shut me out. So forgive me if I don't trust your judgment when it comes to your own protection. The accusation stung because it held truth. I was scared, she admitted, the confession costing her. Of you, of this, of what it meant that I married a man I barely knew, and then started. She stopped, unable to finish. Started what? His voice dropped, dangerous and soft. Say it. Started wanting it to be real. The words fell like stones. Started imagining what it would be like if this marriage was more than paperwork and convenience. And that terrified me, because I know what you are, Jun-suk. What you do. The blood on your hands. She met his eyes. I watched my father build an honest life. He died with nothing but integrity. And I married a man who builds empires on violence. The silence stretched, brittle and sharp. Then Jun-suk laughed a broken, bitter sound. You think I don't know that? You think I don't see the disgust in your eyes when you look at me and remember what I am? He closed the distance between them, backing her against the window. I am a monster, Brenda. I've killed men, destroyed families, built my fortune on fear and blood. And you, his forehead pressed against hers, you married me anyway, because you needed what monsters provide: protection, power, the ability to make the world bend. That's not why. Then why? His hands framed her face. Tell me why you said yes. Why you walked down that aisle and became Mrs. Han. Because it wasn't love. It wasn't even attraction. So what was it? The question she'd been avoiding for 6 months. Survival, she whispered. I was drowning in medical debt and grief, and you offered me a life raft. A contract marriage. Financial security in exchange for being your wife on paper. And now? Now I'm realizing the contract didn't account for this. She placed her hand over his racing heart. For the way you look at me like I'm something precious. For the way I can't breathe when you're close. For the fact that I ran because staying meant admitting I want more than what we agreed to. His breath caught. What do you want, Brenda? I want a partner, not a warden. I want someone who trusts me enough to let me stand beside him, not behind him. Her fingers curled into his shirt. I want the man who drops to his knees in private and builds me studios in secret. Not the one who makes decisions like I'm territory to be secured. They're the same man. Then that man needs to learn the difference between protecting me and controlling me. Jun-seok pulled back, conflict written across every line of his face. For a long moment, he simply looked at her, really looked, like he was seeing her for the first time. You're right, he said finally, and the admission seemed to cost him. I've been treating this like a hostile acquisition. Take the asset, secure the perimeter, eliminate threats. But you're not an asset, are you? No, you're the only thing in my life I'm terrified of losing. His hand slid to her neck, thumb against her pulse. And fear makes me dangerous. Then be dangerous with me, not to me. She covered his hand with hers. Let me in, Jun-seok. Tell me what you're planning. Let me help decide how we navigate this. You don't know what you're asking. I'm asking for what you promised me in the car. Partnership. Or this ends here. The ultimatum hung between them. Jun-seok's jaw worked. Then, slowly, he nodded. Okay. Partners. Equal say in decisions that affect both of us. No more unilateral moves. He stepped back, creating space. But you have to give me something in return. What? Stop running when things get hard. Stop disappearing and blocking my calls. When you're scared or overwhelmed or doubting this, he gestured between them. You stay. You tell me. You let me prove I can be what you need. Fair terms. Terrifying, but fair. Deal, Brenda said, and sealed it the only way that made sense. She kissed him, not the chaste brush of lips from their wedding, not the careful distance they'd maintained for months. This was claiming and surrender all at once. Her hands in his hair, his arms banding around her waist, 6 months of tension finally igniting. He groaned against her mouth, the sound raw and desperate. Brenda, shut up and kiss me back. He did, and in the tangle of tongues and breath, in the way he lifted her like she weighed nothing, in the surrender of control happening on both sides, they stopped being strangers playing at marriage. They became something real, and infinitely more dangerous. The council room fell silent as Brenda entered. 12 men, no women, she noted grimly, sat around a table of polished obsidian. Power brokers and violence merchants, each representing a different arm of the Han Empire. They looked at her with varying degrees of skepticism, curiosity, and barely concealed disdain. Jun-seok stood at the head of the table, and when he saw her, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, then pride. They'd agreed she could attend. What they hadn't discussed was her right to speak. Gentlemen, she said, claiming the empty chair beside Jun-seok before anyone could object. Continue. Kang Min-ho, Jun-seok's security head, cleared his throat. We were discussing the Nakamura Kai situation. Judy Nakamura has been radio silent since we moved Mrs. Han to the penthouse. No surveillance, no contact attempts. Either they've backed off, or they're planning something bigger, Brenda finished. Every eye swiveled to her. Excuse me. Minho's tone could have frozen mercury. It's basic psychology, she continued, refusing to be intimidated. You apply pressure, then retreat. Let the target relax, drop their guard, then strike when they think the danger has passed. And you know this how? The question came from Kim Dae-jung, Jun-seok's financial advisor. His expression radiated condescension. From your extensive experience in syndicate warfare? From my father. She met his gaze steadily. He was a hostage negotiator, taught crisis psychology at John Jay. I grew up learning how predators think. Silence. Junseok's hand found hers under the table, squeezed once. Support. Warning. Both. She's right, he said. The silence is tactical, which means we need to force their hand. Draw them out before they're ready. How? This from Victor Park, who controlled their port operations. Brenda took a breath. Use me. Absolutely not. Junseok's response was instantaneous. Hear me out. She turned to face him, speaking to the man rather than the crime lord. My gallery exhibition is in 2 weeks. Public event. High profile. Media coverage. Exactly the kind of soft target they'd exploit. Which is why you're not going. Which is why I should go under controlled conditions. She addressed the room now, voice steady. We announce the exhibition publicly. I attend with full security. We turn the venue into a trap. If Nakamura Kai makes a move, we catch them in the act. If they don't, we've demonstrated strength. Either way, we control the narrative. The council erupted, voices overlapping, some in agreement, most in protest. Through it all, Junseok remained silent, his hand still wrapped around hers like an anchor. Finally, he stood. The room fell quiet. Everyone out, he said. Except Brenda. The council filed out, some shooting her looks of respect, others of pity. The door closed with finality. Junseok turned to her, and the fury in his eyes made her breath catch. What the hell was that? His voice was deadly quiet. That was partnership. We discuss options. We don't discuss using you as bait. He slammed his hand on the table. Do you understand what you just proposed? Painting a target on your back and walking into a public venue where any one of 300 guests could be an assassin? Yes. I also understand we can't live in this penthouse forever, paralyzed by what-ifs and maybes. She stood to face him. You said equal partnership. That means I get a say in risks that affect my life. Not when those risks could end your life. Then find another option, she shouted back. Give me an alternative that doesn't involve hiding in this tower while your enemies circle. Because this? She gestured around them. This isn't living, Junseok. It's surviving. And I didn't agree to merely survive. He stared at her, chest heaving, conflict written across every feature. The exhibition is my dream, she continued, softer now. 2 years of work. Pieces I created while my father was dying, while I was trying to process grief and fear and everything falling apart. It means something. And if I cancel it, if I let them take this from me, her voice cracked, then they've already won. Understanding dawned in his eyes. This wasn't about strategy. It was about reclaiming agency. Conditions, he said finally. Non-negotiable. Name them. Full security sweep of the venue. Metal detectors. Every guest vetted. Undercover operatives throughout the crowd. Panic room backstage. And you wear a tracker. His hand found her waist. At all times. Agreed. If I say run, you run. No arguments. No hesitation. Agreed. And... He pulled her closer, until they were breathing the same air. You stay within my line of sight the entire night. If I can't see you, the event ends. That's not non-negotiable, Brenda. She searched his face and saw the terror beneath the control. He was agreeing to let her do this. The least she could give him was peace of mind. Okay, she whispered. His forehead dropped to hers. I hate this plan. I know. If anything happens to you, it won't. She framed his face with her hands. Because you'll be there. Because we're partners now. Because you're going to make sure the venue is so heavily secured that even thinking about attacking it would be suicide. Damn right I will. His kiss was bruising, desperate. 2 weeks. That's how long I have to make this place a fortress. Then we'd better get started. He pulled back, studying her with something that looked dangerously like awe. You're terrifying when you're determined. Good. She smiled, sharp and certain. So are you. That's why this is going to work. Junseok called the council back. 30 minutes later, they had a plan. The trap was set. Now they just had to survive it. The Blackwell Gallery gleamed like a jewel box. Brenda stood at the center of her exhibition, 12 pieces spanning 2 years of grief and resurrection, each canvas a diary entry in paint and texture. Around her, Manhattan's art elite circulated with champagne flutes and calculated compliments, oblivious to the armed men positioned at every exit. Junseok hadn't left her side in 3 hours. You're scowling, she murmured, adjusting the sleeve of his Tom Ford tuxedo. It's supposed to be a celebration. I'm working. His eyes scanned the crowd with predatory focus. That's the third time that man by the Rothko has checked his watch. He's probably bored. Not everyone appreciates abstract expressionism. Or he's timing something. Brenda squeezed his hand. You're being paranoid. I'm being prepared. There's a difference. She couldn't argue. The security was suffocating metal detectors at the entrance, undercover operatives blending with guests, sniper positions on neighboring rooftops. Minho had personally overseen vetting every single attendee. If anyone wanted to start trouble, they'd have to be suicidal or brilliant. Or both. Mrs. Han? A woman's voice, polished and cold. Brenda turned. The speaker was striking Japanese features, designer dress, smile that didn't reach her eyes. Something about her triggered alarm bells. I'm Judy Nakamura, the woman continued. I've been so eager to meet you. Time fractured. Junsok moved one hand, shoving Brenda behind him, the other reaching for the gun concealed beneath his jacket. Around them, his security mobilized like a choreographed dance. Judy laughed, hands raised in mock surrender. Relax, Mr. Han. I'm here to appreciate art, not start wars. Her gaze slid to Brenda. Though I must say, your wife's work is quite visceral. All that pain on canvas, it's almost like watching someone bleed in public. How did you get in here? Junsok's voice could have cut glass. I'm resourceful, and your vetting process, while thorough, isn't perfect. She gestured around the gallery. Beautiful venue, lots of windows, excellent sightlines from the street. Her smile sharpened. I do hope you've considered every angle. The threat landed like a blade. You have 30 seconds to leave before I have you arrested, Junsok said. On what charge? Appreciating art? Judy's expression turned serious. I'm not here to hurt anyone, Mr. Han. I'm here to deliver a message. Your protective instincts are admirable, but they've made you predictable. You concentrate all your resources on protecting one asset, and you leave others vulnerable. Brenda's blood turned to ice. What others? Your gallery owner, for instance. Marcus Blackwell. Such a champion of emerging artists. It would be tragic if something happened to him. Judy's eyes gleamed. Or perhaps your security team's families. Minho's daughter just started kindergarten, didn't she? Precious age. Junsok's hand tightened on his concealed weapon. You're threatening children now? I'm illustrating a point. You can't protect everyone. And the more you try, the more spread thin you become. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. But there is another option. A truce. Your organization stays out of Nakamura Kai's port operations, and we stop taking interest in your wife. Everyone lives. Everyone profits. Not interested, Brenda said before Junsok could respond. Both of them looked at her. I won't be leverage in your negotiations, she continued, voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. And I won't let you threaten innocent people because you want territorial concessions. Judy's smile turned genuinely amused. You've got spine. I can see why he married you. Then to Junsok. You have 48 hours to reconsider. After that, the window exploded. Glass rained like diamonds. Someone screamed. Then the second window shattered, and the third, and Brenda's brain finally processed what was happening. Gunfire. Junsok's body slammed into hers, taking her to the ground as bullets chewed through canvas and plaster. Around them, chaos erupted. Guests diving for cover, security returning fire, the careful choreography of the evening disintegrating into violence. Move! Junsok hauled her up, shielding her body with his as they ran toward the back corridor. Behind them, Judy Nakamura disappeared into the panic with practiced ease. They burst through a door into a service hallway. Minho appeared from nowhere. Face grim. Panic room. Now. But before they could move, a figure emerged from the shadows, young, terrified, wearing a security uniform. One of their own. I'm sorry, the kid whispered, then raised his gun. Junsok was faster. The shot rang out. The betrayer dropped. Brenda's ears rang. Blood spattered the marble floor she couldn't tell. Go! Minho shoved them toward the panic room door. I'll handle cleanup. The steel door slammed shut behind them, muffling the sounds of continued gunfire. They were alone in a soundproofed box, surrounded by monitors showing the carnage outside. Brenda's hands shook. Your security, one of your own people. I know. Junsok pulled her against his chest, and she realized he was shaking too. It's over. You're safe. Those people out there are not your responsibility. He tilted her face up, forcing her to meet his eyes. You need to understand something, Brenda. This is my world. People betray. People die. And sometimes the only way to survive is to be more ruthless than your enemies. On the monitors, she watched his security systematically secure the gallery, 3 shooters down, guests being evacuated. And somewhere in that chaos, Judy Nakamura had vanished like smoke. This was a message, Brenda said. Yes. What are you going to do? Jun-suk's expression hardened into something terrifying. I'm going to war, and Brenda realized, watching him transform from husband to weapon, that she'd just seen the monster beneath the man. The question was whether she could love them both. 11 hours. 11 hours since Jun-suk had left her at his mother's estate in Westchester, surrounded by armed guards and bulletproof glass. 11 hours of pacing, pristine floors while imagining every worst-case scenario. Mrs. Han Jun-suk's mother, a woman of steel wrapped in silk, sat across from Brenda in the drawing room, tea cooling between them. You're worried, the older woman observed in Korean-accented English. He went to war. Of course I'm worried. He's done this before. He'll come back. Will he? Brenda's voice cracked. Because the man who left me here, that wasn't my husband. That was something else. Something cold. Mrs. Han smiled sadly. You're just now seeing it? The thing my son becomes when protecting what's his? She set down her teacup with deliberate care. Let me tell you about Jun-suk. When he was 16, his sister was taken. For 3 days, we heard nothing. Then my son came home covered in blood that wasn't his, carrying his sister's body. He'd found her too late, but he made sure every man responsible died screaming. Horror washed over Brenda. He never told me, because he's ashamed of what he is. But he shouldn't be. Mrs. Han leaned forward. My son is a monster when he needs to be. It's how he survives in a world that would eat him alive otherwise. The question isn't whether you can accept that. It's whether you're strong enough to love him anyway. Before Brenda could respond, the front door opened. She was moving before thought, racing toward the entrance hall. And there, Jun-suk, alive, standing, blood soaking through his shirt, face bruised, knuckles split. Behind him, Minho and 3 other men, equally damaged. Their eyes met across the marble expanse. It's done, he said simply. Brenda's knees threatened to give out. What's done? Nakamura Kai's leadership, dead. Judy Nakamura, arrested by the FBI, on trafficking charges we'd been building for months. Her organization fractured. Peace, enforced. He swayed slightly. We won. Then his legs buckled. Brenda caught him, or tried to. They went down together in a tangle of limbs and blood. She cradled his head, searching for wounds. Where are you hit? Jun-suk, where? Not shot. His laugh was painful. Ribs, maybe broken. Definitely bruised. You idiot. You absolute. Tears came before she could stop them. You could have died. But I didn't. His hand found her face, thumb brushing away tears. Because I had something to come home to. Mrs. Han appeared with a medical kit. Move aside, child. Let me see my son. But Jun-suk's grip on Brenda tightened. She stays. So Brenda stayed, holding his hand while his mother patched him up with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this too many times. Cracked ribs, confirmed. Lacerations, contusions, but alive. Whole. Later, after everyone had left, after showers and bandages and the kind of exhaustion that transcended physical, they lay in bed together, not touching, just existing in the same space. I killed them, Jun-suk said into the darkness. The men who shot at you, the ones who gave the orders. I put bullets in their heads and felt nothing but satisfaction. I know. You should be horrified. I am, she rolled to face him. But I'm also grateful. Because you did it to protect me. To end the threat. And the admission lodged in her throat. I don't know what that makes me. Human. His hand found hers in the dark. Flawed. Complicated. Just like me. Your mother said you're a monster. I am. She also said the question is whether I'm strong enough to love you anyway. Brenda squeezed his fingers. I think I am. His breath caught. Brenda, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying I don't have moments of doubt. But watching you walk through that door tonight, knowing you'd gone to war for me. She moved closer, until she could feel his heartbeat against her palm. I choose this. I choose you. Monster and man. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She smiled against his shoulder. But you're stuck with me anyway. For a long moment, they simply breathed together. Then Jun-suk shifted, wincing as his ribs protested. There's something else, he said. Something I need to tell you. Dread pooled in her stomach. What? I'm stepping back. From the family business. Not completely, I can't. Not without destabilizing everything we've built. But I'm putting Minho in charge of day-to-day operations, transitioning to more legitimate ventures. He turned his head to meet her eyes. Because I want to be the man you think I can be, not the monster I've always been. Tears welled again. You don't have to. I do. Because I want a life with you, Brenda. Not just survival, not just paperwork. A real marriage. Maybe eventually. He hesitated. Maybe eventually a family. The word hung between them, fragile and terrifying. Is that what you want? She whispered. It's what I've wanted since the moment you said yes in that chapel. I was just too afraid to admit it. His thumb traced her lips. You make me want to be better. To build something other than empires of blood. Brenda kissed him slow, deep, tasting salt and promise. Then let's build it, she said. Together. And in the darkness of that room, two broken people started to become whole. 3 months of peace felt like a lifetime. Brenda stood in her new gallery, smaller than Blackwell's, but hers, funded by legitimate investments Jun-Suk had made in her name. Around her, preparations for the reopening hummed with controlled chaos. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jun-Suk. Dinner at 7? I'm cooking. She smiled. The feared crime lord had been teaching himself Korean recipes from his mother, determined to create normalcy in their lives. Another buzz. This one from her doctor's office. Results are in. Please call. Brenda's hand went to her stomach, where the nausea had been a constant companion for 2 weeks. She'd thought it was stress, but this morning, when coffee made her gag, she'd known. She called from the back office, heart hammering. 5 minutes later, she hung up and stared at the wall. Pregnant. 8 weeks. The word felt impossible and inevitable all at once. She drove to the penthouse in a daze, her mind cataloging everything that would change. Jun-Suk had mentioned wanting a family, but that was theoretical. This was real. Cells dividing. A person growing. Their child. She found him in the kitchen, apron-clad, focused on something simmering on the stove. The domesticity of it, the man who'd killed for her now carefully measuring spices, made her chest tight. You're early, he said, looking up with a smile. Dinner's not ready yet, Brenda. What's wrong? She must have looked pale. Felt pale. The world tilted slightly. I need to tell you something, she said. His expression shifted instantly to concern. He turned off the burner, wiped his hands, gave her his full attention. What happened? I'm pregnant. The words fell like stones into still water. Jun-Suk stared at her, blinked, opened his mouth, closed it. Then, slowly, his legs seemed to give out. He sank to his knees right there in the kitchen, hands coming up to grip her hips. Say it again, he whispered. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. I just got the confirmation from... He pressed his forehead against her stomach, and Brenda felt his shoulders shake. It took her a moment to realize he was crying silent, overwhelming tears that soaked through her shirt. Jun-Suk, I'm going to be a father. His voice broke on the word. We're going to have a child. Is that our you... She couldn't read him, couldn't tell if this was joy or fear. It's everything. He looked up, face wet, expression transcendent. You're giving me everything I never thought I deserved. Relief crashed over her. She sank down to join him on the floor, and they held each other in the middle of the kitchen while dinner cooled and the future rearranged itself. I'm terrified, she admitted. Me too. What if I'm not good at this? Then we'll figure it out together. He pulled back, hands framing her face. We're partners, remember? We'll learn. We'll mess up. We'll do better. Your world, the danger, is being dismantled piece by piece. I'm almost fully transitioned to legitimate business. The security stays, but the violence? He shook his head. Our child will grow up safe. I swear it. Brenda believed him. Because if there was one thing Han Jun-Suk excelled at, it was protecting what he loved. Boy or girl? She asked. Do you have a preference? Healthy. That's all I want. Healthy and loved. She kissed him, tasting salt and promise. They will be, because they'll have you. They'll have us. That night, they lay in bed with his hand on her still flat stomach, talking about names and nurseries and all the ways their lives were about to change. I want to be different from my father, Jun-Suk said quietly. Present, gentle, not just a provider, but a parent. You will be. How do you know? Because you're already proving it. Every choice you've made in the last 3 months, stepping back, Building legitimate businesses, creating a safe life for us, that's what fathers do. She covered his hand with hers. You're going to be amazing. What about you? Scared? Terrified. But also, she searched for the right word. Hopeful. Like maybe all the broken pieces are finally forming something whole. He kissed her temple. They already did, the moment you chose to stay. Sleep came easier that night, wrapped in each other and the future they were building. 8 months later, when their daughter was born tiny and perfect, and absolutely tyrannical in her demands, Junseok held her with the same reverence he'd shown Brenda that day in the kitchen. She's perfect, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. She's ours, Brenda corrected. And watching him, this man of violence and power reduced to helpless devotion by 7 pounds of humanity, she knew they'd made it. From grief to survival to love to this. A family born from the wreckage of everything that came before. Imperfect. Complicated. Theirs. 2 years later. Brenda adjusted the painting on the gallery wall, her latest piece, all wild color and chaotic beauty. Behind her, guests mingled with champagne and conversation, celebrating her 5th solo exhibition. Different gallery, different life, same passion. Mama! She turned to find their daughter Nari, named after Junseok's sister, barreling toward her with the confidence of someone who'd never known fear. Junseok followed 2 steps behind, protective but allowing independence. What is it, sweetheart? Daddy said I can't have more cookies. Nari's pout could melt titanium. Daddy's right, it's almost bedtime. But, listen to your mother, Junseok said, scooping her up. Or no story tonight. You always give in on stories, Nari accused. True. He kissed her forehead. I'm weak where my girls are concerned. Brenda smiled, watching them. Junseok had transformed completely, still sharp in business, still protective. But the violence had been channeled into legitimate empire building. Han Industries now focused on tech investments and real estate development. Clean, legal, boring, by his old standards. He'd never looked happier. Mr. Han? A gallery patron approached, male, mid-40s, expensive suit. He stood too close to Brenda, leaning in to examine the painting. Your wife's work is extraordinary. I'd love to discuss a private commission. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Junseok settled Nari on his hip and turned to face the man. He didn't say anything, didn't move, just looked at him with the kind of attention that promised consequences. The patron blanched, stepped back. Or maybe through official channels. I'll contact the gallery manager. He fled. Brenda bit back a laugh. You didn't even say anything. Didn't need to. Junseok shifted Nari to his other arm. He understood. Daddy's scary face, Nari announced cheerfully. Only to people who forget boundaries, he told her. Never to people we love. What about Mama? You use scary face with Mama? Never. Not even when she burns dinner? Brenda gasped in mock outrage. That was one time. Twice. Junseok corrected, grinning. But who's counting? They moved through the gallery together, husband, wife, daughter. A family that shouldn't have worked, born from a marriage of convenience that became something neither had anticipated. Outside, the city glittered. Somewhere in its shadows, people still played dangerous games. But here, in this space they'd carved from chaos, there was only light. Ready to go home? Junseok asked. Home. The penthouse they'd transformed from bachelor pad to family space. Nari's room with its hand-painted murals. The studio where Brenda created. The kitchen where they burned dinner and ordered takeout and laughed about it. Ready, she said. In the car, Nari fell asleep against Junseok's shoulder within minutes. Brenda watched them, her fierce protector and his tiny mirror image, and felt gratitude so profound it hurt. What? Junseok asked, catching her stare. Nothing. Just thank you. For what? For being stubborn enough to fight for this. For us. She took his free hand. For teaching me that sometimes the best things come from the worst circumstances, says the woman who made me believe in second chances. He kissed her knuckles. We built something good, didn't we? We built something great. At home, they put Nari to bed together. Junseok read the promise story, making up voices, ad-libbing jokes, being the father he'd promised to be. Brenda watched from the doorway, heart full. Later, in their own bed, he pulled her close. I love you, he said. I don't say it enough. You say it every day, just not always with words. Still, he tilted her face up. I love you, Brenda Han. You're the best decision I ever made. I'm pretty sure I married you. Semantics. His smile was soft, genuine. Either way, we won. And they had. Against odds and enemies and their own broken pieces, they'd built a life worth protecting, dangerous when necessary, powerful when challenged, but mostly just happy. The feared crime lord and the woman who'd tamed him. Partners, lovers, parents. Unbreakable. This was their life now. Hard won, fiercely protected, absolutely worth every battle, and neither would change a single moment.